Hey everyone, welcome to the latest NCRN webinar. Let me know if for any reason you have any trouble hearing me. I'm on my tablet today, but hopefully you can. So this is going to be a open forum. So we've done these about 3 or 4 times over the course of the NCRN's history, where we basically kind of open up the floor for everyone to share a few minute description of what they're working on. This was people told us when we did the very first one back in 2020 in the height of COVID. People told us that this was one of the most useful webinars we've ever done because it was a way for people really to connect with each other and learn about smaller projects out there that maybe they haven't heard of. And for those of us who often don't speak in the webinars or don't want to go through the rigmarole of putting together a whole presentation, to be able to share briefly a couple minute overview of what you're up to. It's fine if people want to speak for. I think we have 24 participants on the call right now. There would be definitely. I know that not everybody will want to speak, but I'm thinking that we can go for about 3 minutes per person, and then we can also take a couple of quick questions after everyone gets a chance to do their initial presentation. About 4 or 5 of you actually emailed in advance to make sure that you were on the agenda, and I think I might start calling on a few of those of you who emailed in advance first, but then we'll go through the list and make sure that everybody on the call has a chance to do a brief introduction of who you are, what you're working on, and just anything you'd like the community to know about your work. And it's really an opportunity to do a little bit of self-promotion, look for collaborators, look for new opportunities, and to really be a research network in the full sense of the word, right? That we're here to support each other, to advance the field. This is what the NCRN has always been about. And I think these open forums are really a great opportunity to connect with each other in a low-key, informal way that we don't always get a chance to do at bigger conferences. Michelle, did you have anything you wanted to add about kind of the introductory remarks?
No, I think you captured it all. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone's working on.
Yeah, yep. So like I said, I'm gonna start with a few people who I know have sent me an email in advance, just because I want to make sure that if there's any kind of conflicts or timing issues, that those people, definitely get a chance to speak. And then we'll go through the list kind of, I think I'll probably kind of moderate here, just kind of in the order that I see it on my Zoom account, which might not be different from the order that you see on your own side. But so we'll go ahead and start. And also, I see some folks introducing themselves in the chat, which is great as well. So I'm going to go start here with Christos. Christos, you actually sent me an email last night. It was great to connect with you again. We would love to hear you talk a little bit about some of your recent work. And if you have any slides to share, I'll double check our settings, but I think people should be able to share. Let me know if you can't. But obviously, slides are optional.
No, that's great. I just dropped a paper in the chat, and that one. Well, so hi everybody, great to be here, and grateful for your convening with Kyle. So the paper I dropped in the chat, I'll just give a quick summary of it. It might seem a little bit out there in one sense, but I actually think it's very core to some of the emerging work that maybe this community will be able to continue doing more of in the years ahead. So it's around the use of digital assets, specifically non-fungible tokens, as a way of tokenizing intellectual property. And so in a world with generative AI, where it's really difficult to assess the authenticity of something, whether it would be degrees that are fabricated, forged, or whatever, or artwork that is kind of a knockoff off of the authentic digital art. This is just becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So what the idea in this paper, and it's going to be coming out in a journal called the Journal of Institutional Economics, which is a little bit more of like a political economy sort of journal, is to say, well, all the benefits that large language models are able to bring, that is in one sense a way of making sense of unstructured data together with structured data. The way that blockchain fits into this is from a cryptographic security-based perspective that secures the underlying network that large language models might be able to function on. So that's at a high level. What we do is we flesh out how NFTs can create property rights around ideas, degrees, and everything in between. So this is it's just I won't rant too long. I'll just kind of close with this note that I think that as Gen AI becomes more pervasive, the importance of authenticating credentials and using potentially NFTs to do that is going to be a really interesting avenue forward. There's another paper that I have that I don't want to yeah, again, belabor it too long, so I'll just say I've been doing a little bit of work around uh, kind of online learning through providers like DataCamp, Coursera, etc. The tricky thing that we haven't overcome yet is linking that to labor market data, so we can document things like the uptake and certification, the number of certifications. What we can't do is show completing the certificate is associated with a certain rise in wages or career transitions, etc. So that's why that part of the update is relegated to 30 seconds, and the bigger update is on the IP rights and Gen AI. Let me stop there. If there's any questions, obviously happy to, but otherwise, Kyle, keep moving along since I know there's a lot of people in the queue and other exciting updates to follow.
Hey, Christos, I got just a quick question. I see an empty office behind you. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, well, I think I used this joke once before, so I get the opportunity to use it again. Is that I could be in a like those container ships in the middle of the ocean, and it's just like some random room that looks like it's actually a place. But no, I just don't have books on the shelf. So I spend some time in DC, some time in Europe. Most of my work is in the labor and emerging technology space, and so that portfolio continues to move ahead. I will say, because the last time that I was in person at NCRN, and I don't know how many people might have been there in person, maybe it was, I want to say maybe 2019. I remember Holly being there, and some of the folks I see a few names. Inez, I recognize, was around the use of non-degree credentials in the arts. And so
No.
artists are a large group of, it might seem like small, like niche, like opera and classical music and performing arts, but there's many people, it's a global industry. So anyways, one new paper that I have out, which maybe is worth, yeah, Kyle asked for it, so now I have an excuse. I'll put this in the chat as well. Is a paper that I published with a dear friend from University of Michigan. Oops, wait, that didn't. I'll put it in after I finish this, so I'm not multitasking. But is around the exposure that arts students get to entrepreneurship curricula and business education, and how does that narrow the artist to non-artist wage gap that we see in the labor market? And the answer is by about half. And so this is something that I'm also involved in a practical translational side, because I'm also building entrepreneurial curricula for the arts with my two best friends who are leading opera singers, Norman Reinhardt, who's also an artist in residence at Northwestern, and Zula Parasides, also an opera singer. So now I will not abuse the luxury that Kyle gave to answer that simple question.
I
I'll
was
stop
just
there.
curious about the empty office if you had started somewhere a new affiliation. But that's all great to know. And yeah, we definitely remember that presentation on the credentialing needs in the arts. I thought that was a critical area that we often don't look at. So moving along, the next person I see on the list of folks who reached out for in advance, I see Donald Staub. Donald, you've always been one of the more curious members of the network, calling in from Turkey, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about your work.
Okay, curious, that's a curious term, but okay. Thank you very much, Kyle and Michelle, for having us. I'm actually here with my colleague, Özge Coşkun. Do I get to share? Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll try to get through this in the 3 or 4 minutes allotted to us. I'm the director of the School of Foreign Languages at Izmir University of Economics. Özge is the assistant director to the School of Foreign Languages at the same university. And you're probably wondering, what do foreign languages have to do with this topic? But it's something that I've been very interested in for about 15 years. And and I've been trying to sell the idea in Turkey. It's been a slow go, but just in the last 2 years, there's been an increasing awareness of micro-credentials and non-credit credentialing across the board in Turkey, and there's hope on the horizon for this, really. So that's what we're going to talk about really quickly here in our presentation. So when you talk about research, our research here in our context is to focus on creating an ecosystem that's going to be, accepting, developing, and recognizing, et cetera, micro-credentials and non-credit offerings in all sorts of education, from K-12 up into higher education and public education and so on. So just, looking at these three terms here, the learner earners, the issuers, and the recognizers, I'm going to talk about how we've got different sub-projects going on around each of these, these stakeholders in this ecosystem. So first of all, in our context, we've got learner earners who are what would be like our faculty or our instructors in our school. And so we have professional development opportunities that they're constantly going after. And these are non-credit, but it's a way to build their portfolios. The next group Özge is going to talk about.
Hello, everybody. Like Donald has just mentioned, we are focused on creating a skills-based ecosystem that improves the employability for our learner earners. And in this case, actually, in this initiative, we are trying to connect our students in the intensive English program, which lasts for a year, with micro-credential opportunities like self-directed learning, AI, critical thinking, effective teamwork, to help our students acquire, showcase, and apply these transferable skills. And these are, again, non-credit micro-credentials.
Right. So another big project that we have is funded by the British Council, and we're about a year and a half into this project. We have a partner in the UK, the University of Huddersfield, and I know, Kyle, that you've had Rupert Ward on this program before, and Rupert is a very close, I mean, he is our partner on this project. And so we're using a lot of the work that Rupert has done in the UK and trying to implement it here in Turkey, primarily at our university. That's the first place we're stepping into. And the idea is to identify that kind of like skills gap between what the students are getting in their academic programs and what the employers are asking for. And through that identification, we're developing micro-credentials and kind of integrating them in a non-credit way at the beginning into the curricula, so that the end result is not about credits, it's about getting the skills to the students so that they're more employable. And ultimately, that's going to reach out into the local community by offering the same micro-credentials and skills to non-university stakeholders. But it's at that point, it becomes a kind of a public service project as well. So in this case, we've got the learner earners are the students, the issuers might be the faculties of the departments in the university, and the recognizers would be the employers out in the market for any of the students or the local community members earning these micro-credentials. Özge is going to talk about this group.
Can I one more minute?
Okay.
Okay. Let me try to summarize that here. This is one notable example of our efforts. This project is called Drive to Equality, where we developed Driver Excellency micro-credential program for 120 female driver candidates. And this program enabled them to acquire critical skills in like effective communication, stress management, self-awareness, gender equality, and so on. So this exemplifies actually how we are using also micro-credentials to address some challenges that women are facing in their day-to-day life and careers. So in this program, we try to empower these drivers, candidate drivers, with the essential skills and foster inclusivity in the workforce.
If I may, our final slide then, Kyle, is about a couple of conferences we've had over the last year, which have brought together the three different groups in this stakeholder ecosystem. And so what we're trying to do is create dialogues between the issuers, the learners, and the recognizers. And doing so, we think that we're starting to gain traction in this effort to build awareness and to build acceptance of micro-credentials and non-credit credentials here, at least in our context, in our region, and maybe across the country. So thanks very much for allowing us to be here and to share some of these ideas with you.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And there'll be more opportunities, by the way, for webinars for some of our international participants over the next year. We'll definitely look for opportunities to give you guys some more time because it's definitely quite interesting what you guys are up to. And honestly, in a part of the world that we don't hear much from in this community. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time and bearing with the time difference.
Thank you.
I saw Inez next on my list of folks who called in advance.
It's really good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. And I just hope that my internet connection stays with me. We've had pretty bad weather over here in Germany. So once in a while, you're just gone, but I hope you will be able to see me. And so I'll just start before God knows what happens. But yeah, it's just really nice to see everybody again. Christos, Michelle, you know, everybody is just, yeah, it's been a while and really good to see you all. I'm here to present work that is only partly mine, I should say, and that is absolutely not as advanced as Christos is yet, but maybe very approachable. I hope you can see this. This is work by a group of colleagues of mine at MIT, former colleagues, I should say, at the Sloan School of Management, where I was a postdoc back in 2019 when we all met. And I think with that, good. Not one to perform as I do. Anyways, yeah, I share the slide, even if it has a bit too much information, but just to give you an idea. So really, we are interested in MicroMasters, or the master track programs that really seem to be, you know, coming up in various places. In the US, obviously, we probably all know the MicroMasters in supply chain, MIT, which was one of the first and most successful MicroMasters to date, but they're also you know, coming up all around the world as a, I guess, more advanced version of the good old MOOCs that we've, you know, had around for a while. And the idea, if you're not so familiar with the MicroMasters just yet, is that students or learners choose to undergo several courses consecutively that then together make up a credential, and they also pay for these certificates, and then have basically obtain a credential that they can then use to, if they were successful, obviously, to apply for to a university, in this case MIT, and actually use the credits going forward. So it is something that we've seen, and that also received public finance and also private finance. The Massachusetts state government, the Lumina Foundation, for instance, have been supporting these MicroMasters at MIT. And so we thought, okay, it was about time that we see how these are doing. And what we were particularly interested in were the profiles, the motivations, and the behavior of successful credential holders, so successful participants or learners of these programs. The study that we've been again sort of completing as a team of researchers, we had a couple of people from Harvard involved, a couple of independent researchers as well. is mixed methods design. So we are using quantitative data from the entrance and exit surveys that edX actually runs at the beginning and the conclusion of each course, and then we paired it with qualitative interviews. So far, we've had about 50 interviews of 30 to 45 minutes. And we hope, as I just said, to help advance knowledge on these learners and what makes them successful, and more broadly in sort of best practices in teaching and learning, both online as well as in the classroom. And one body of literature that we came across and that we find really interesting, and we hope that there are people out there amongst you who are interested in this as well, is the literature on self-regulated learning and self-regulated learning strategies. So ideally, we'd be contributing that body of literature. However, if you know an opportunity to contribute to another body of literature here, we'd love to hear from you. Again, this is why we appreciate this network very much. We is, in this case, obviously myself, but also the person who runs this study, Dr. Lori Breslov at the Sloan School of Management, as I said. We also hope that our findings will help advance the literature on MOOCs, since the literature on MicroMasters and the master track is still very much in its infancy. And there's, I mean, we're really laying the foundations here, I should say. Maybe just a few glimpses into our findings to date. The typical MicroMasters in Finance verified learner is, as we probably would have anticipated, male, young to middle age, 20 to 39 years old, college educated, and in fact employed, either full-time or part-time. In many cases, we also have employers funding these programs, which seems to, from our findings so far, seems to give an extra boost in terms of motivation. We do see, unfortunately, that female and atypical learners are significantly underrepresented in these courses and in these credentials. And again, with an eye on this, what do successful learners do? They seem to be pretty good at using these self-regulated learning strategies. Questions that have sort of emerged so far, and I'm sure there are many more. So again, the invitation to you, if you see something where you say, oh, this would be really interesting, please let us know. We are wondering, is there anything to be said about the number of female and atypical learners, and how we might be able to enhance it, if that is something that we'd like to do. With regard to the motivation, how does employment and the prospect of enhancement in terms of very concrete prospect influence successful completion? And with regard to the behavior, we are wondering, are there some self-regulated learning strategies that are better for this specific program, but maybe also other online programs than others? And
I think we should probably keep moving, but thank you so much, Ina. It's really interesting work, and really impressed that you've kept up with the network as much as you have over the years. You're one of our you've been with us since near the very beginning, and we really appreciate your engagement. And I don't know if you'll get a chance ever to come to one of our in-person meetings in DC again, but we would love to see you again in person someday if the opportunity comes up. So let me, I guess, kind of continue down the list of folks who contacted in advance. I wanted to make sure I see Dana Dolan, who's actually from GW, which we don't see that often in this community. So always exciting to see a fellow colleague here. Dana, did you want to say a few words and possibly also introduce a couple of the students on the call?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually a professional lecturer in international affairs at the Elliott School. I'm a part-time instructor there. And I teach public policy at George Mason University and qualitative methods here at George Washington. So I was invited by the School of Business to teach a number of visiting scholars from Kazakhstan, two of which are here today, in qualitative methods. And because I've been interested in the sort of technological changes in teaching for a long time, based on my prior career in IT, I decided I would take on this idea of micro-credentials as part of the team pilot project that my students did in the class. So that's kind of why I'm here. I don't have a specific project of my own research that I'm doing, given that most of my research is in public policy now. But I'm very curious to learn more and see in particular how this might change teaching in traditional settings as well. This is something I saw in my prior career a lot. When new technologies came in, they tended to open up possibilities that sort of re-educated traditional ways of doing things, traditional processes. So as you mentioned, two of the scholars are here today, and those are Jazira. I'm going to apologize for not trying to pronounce your last name and let you do that. Do you want to say hello real quick?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. We are from Kazakhstan, Eurasian National University, Astana, and we came as a Bolashak Scholarship. It's a governmental program which sponsored by Kazakhstan government, and we had an internship in George Washington University now. And thank you for our mentor, Dana Dolan, for introducing us to the community on micro-credentials.
And let me break in very quickly and introduce Ajana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ajana. I am the same story as Jazira's. I am a visiting scholar, research fellow at George Washington University. In our country, I am a professor of education in Eurasian National University. It's in the capital of Kazakhstan, in Astana city. And I'm very happy to be with you today. Thank you for opportunity to share our research findings. It's not so big for the moment, but I think we are on the right way. Thank you.
So in addition to the short 7-week pilot study that all the students did in my class, these two visiting scholars are working on their own project that, well, actually two of their own projects, one of which is focused on micro-credentials. So if I haven't taken up all my time, I'll be happy to give it to the two of them to maybe give an overview of their own studies.
I think we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, so do you see? So our topic about adapting to change, Kazakhstani faculty incorporation of micro-credential into academic courses. We decided to work with this topic because micro-credentials are relatively new to Kazakhstani higher education, and implementation of micro-credentials in Kazakhstan higher education system gained significant changes, and now nation seeks to adapt its educational framework to meet the demands of modern labor market. And we have a lot of issues in the field of micro-credentials in Kazakhstani higher education. And one of them, how to adapt micro-credentials in traditional higher education system, how to integrate micro-credentials into traditional educational program. And we started our topic with and one of the important issues, so as you know, our research, we mentioned about integration as understood not merely as completing as standalone courses on platform like Coursera, but as embedding and implementing specific parts of such courses into existing syllabus in higher education. And this includes incorporating micro-credentials into obligatory or elective courses and integrating micro-credentials as a requirement elements of academic courses, using specific micro-credentials such as Coursera, And we believe that incorporating such programs in academic courses provide a more flexible and adapting learning model, and taking into account challenges occurring in higher education, where our research aims to investigate how Kazakhstan faculty is adapting to change through incorporation of micro-credentials into academic courses. And we choose these research questions as what is the purpose of integrating micro-credentials in the courses by faculty at Kazakhstani universities. And we started with data collection by gathering semi-structured interview with 14 faculty members of Kazakhstani universities, which have experience of implementation micro-credentials in traditional courses. And we used qualitative methods, thematic analysis, and our research finding, trying to be briefly, we find out that faculty members using integrating micro-credentials in order to strengthening course with micro-credentials, improving student learning outcomes, enhancing student engagement. It's new methods, innovating teachers methods, enhancing employability, fostering student-centered learning, supporting competency-based education, and increasing student motivation. And it's our short research, and we came to conclusions that integration of micro-credentials into obligatory and elective courses promotes student-centered and competency-based education while supporting diverse educational goals such as improving learning outcomes, enhanced engagement, innovating teaching practices, and increased employability. So thank you for listening us. It's a really good opportunity for us because we're sharing our ideas first time in front of a big audience. So yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, no, thank you so much. And we really hope that you'll be able to be, as with everyone on the call, we hope you'll all be able to participate in our spring meeting, which we'll be hosting once again on the GW campus on May 28th. So if you're in town, still in DC, then we would love to have you.
Thank you. If you have a question.
I think that we will have to keep moving just to kind of get through everyone on the call. Although I don't know, some of you, I know some of you may be just kind of lurking, which is totally fine. If I call on someone and you don't want to speak, that's totally fine to just say pass. That's totally fine. We're just here to learn from each other. So I know that Jim Fong, you had a few slides that you might want to share a little bit of an update on your work.
Yeah, let me actually put my screen on.
Hey, Jim, good to see you again.
Good to see you all. And hopefully you can see that. I am going to just give a quick overview. I've got a lot of slides, but I'm going to try to be done in 3 to 4 minutes.
I'll cut you at 10:39. Okay,
sounds good. My name is Jim Fong. I'm the Chief Research Officer at UPSIA. And while the past folks gave in-depth, I'm going to give you breadth. And so I'm going to tell you just everything that we've done in 2024, what's coming up in 2025. So quick year in review. We actually did a study, and you should be able to see this one coming up on a slide, is a state of continuing education. We look at continuing professional education units. We do this every year for the last 3 or 4 years. We're in the middle of 2025 right now. Big thing that we're finding is more trust in micro-credentials. There's a lot of stackability that's going on, but this study, you can find past versions on Modern Campus or the Evolution. Another study that we've also done is with collegiate education. A lot of our studies are sponsored by outside entities. They don't necessarily drive the research. We actually find a mutually agreeable research study where our members can benefit. We're just not going to do research for them. Our members have got to benefit from it. We did an employer study, and actually NCRN sponsored an employer study for that we did about 2 years ago as well. This one's different. Collegiate sponsored this one. And again, we found out that employers just don't know enough about the label micro-credentials and how to access them at our institutions. We do a lot of work around marketing as well. We're helping a lot of our members communicate their programs better and get to understand their audience better. Other studies that we've done here is we're doing a study on AI marketing and enrollment management. A lot of things going on with comprehensive learner records and enrollment management processes. We also have done a study around credential acceleration, growth, and credential innovation. And this is something that we did with Walmart. And I know that some of us are funded by Walmart activities here. We actually did a survey of 100 institutions, and we've done a playbook as a result, which can be downloaded off our site. If you can't get it from our UPSIA site, let me know, and I'll go behind the firewall if it's behind the firewall and get it to you. A lot of other things that we've done that might be relevant include, we've done a lot of work with Straighterline, and we find out the adult learner is very hesitant about committing to 120 credits. And so will they go to more stackable credentials as a result? And we're finding, yes, any way to reduce risks and costs and yet have a credential should something happen. So a lot of this research we've done, this is in 2024, and we've got 5 studies lined up for 2025 as well. So I guess I will end it right there. In addition to saying that we also do a number of self-selected surveys from our membership where we might have 30 to 40 institutions participate around an issue. It could be around OPM usage. It could be around healthy indicators, could be around corporate outreach, which is huge. A lot more of our institutions are hiring community corporate outreach members to promote, their programs and to get them to adopt their programs and communicate them better. But every month, we run a different internal survey of our membership. So basically 2024, 2025, we are looking to study our own membership, our own departments of continuing professional online education more in depth. 2022, 2023, it was all about the adult learner. 2023, 2024, it was all about the corporate learner. Now it's about ourselves. And we're really kind of pulling a lot of this data together. And I can actually share this snapshot with you of all of our resources and all the research that we've done. I can send it to Kyle and Michelle after the fact. So boom, I'm done. 139.
Hey, thanks so much. We'd be happy to distribute that. We might have time for just like one question if there are any quick questions.
Got one, Kyle. Can I ask a quick one?
Absolutely.
James, can you go back to that slide where you mentioned about the comprehensive learner record? I just wanted to get a snapshot of what that report is.
Actually, we've got a few studies on that, but I'll have to find the one. We actually have one where I will actually point it out to you. We have so many of them. There's one that's got some who's actually adopting the comprehensive learner record, and I think it might be here. It is right here. It's a study that we've done with Instructure, but we've also done another study as a result of our solar conference, and also one where we do a joint partnership conference with ACRO. So we're starting to find out whether or not it's people are investing into it a little bit more. I'm not too sure if the one that we're doing on the state of continuing education is tackling that, or whether that we've asked a question about that, but it's sliding more and more into our research agenda.
Thanks very much.
I mean, since you mentioned that conference, I think you're referring to the Conversion Summit that's now
Right.
every year. And the NCRN, we've been talking to Amy, your colleague Amy, about possibly doing a little bit of collaboration on developing some content there. We're really excited about it. So that's, I think, still at the very end of September this year, again in DC.
Yep, she told me about that.
Yeah, we're very excited to be partnering with you all. I understand Eliza might want to go next. I apologize if I'm not. People know me over the years. I'm not great with pronouncing names.
You got it. All right, so I'm going to be presenting some findings from the State Non-Credit Data Project, which is an initiative housed at the Rutgers Education and Employment Research Center, where I'm a research analyst. So the State Non-Credit Data Project, here is a map of all of the different parts of it. We have a learning community, which meets quarterly.
Oh, Liza, do you mean to have slides on?
I did. Thanks. I was wondering why the presentation was, sometimes gets buggy if you put it on Zoom. So anyway, here's the presentation, and here's the organizational map of the State Non-Credit Data Project. There's a bunch of different offshoots of it, including the quarterly meetings of the learning community. We have recently launched working groups for state people working with state entities, so departments of labor and community college systems.
I think we're still not seeing the slides, but we can always email them out after.
No, I'll figure it out. Sorry.
No
Okay.
worries. There we go.
All good now?
Yep, and we can go for about 3 more minutes.
All right. So the learning community, we also have done some research projects. The two I'm going to focus on today are our cross-state report and our non-credit data taxonomy 2.0. So as part of the State Non-Credit Data Project, we partnered with 5 states, well, 8 states throughout the whole duration, but during this phase, we've partnered with 5 states, Maryland, New Jersey, Oregon, South Carolina, and Tennessee, to find out more about their non-credit data systems. What data are they collecting? What data do they hope to collect? And how do they do that? So we found that these states, Maryland, New Jersey, Oregon, South Carolina, and Tennessee, were in an earlier stage of development than the states from our first phase, which included Iowa. We found there was more variation between data availability than in phase 1. We found that state funding is the biggest driver of non-credit data analysis and collection, which is not super surprising, but we also noticed that occupational training was the most common type of non-credit offering in most of the phase 2 states. So occupational training is comprised of contract training and open enrollment occupational training. As for the data elements, we noticed that some data elements that were consistently collected across all 5 of the states were key elements of program purpose and design. So that includes course program names and contact hours. There were some elements that were inconsistently collected, including demographic data, especially race and ethnicity, and instructional characteristics of the offerings, as well as associated non-degree credentials. We found that most of the states in this phase of the research were not collecting or analyzing outcomes data yet, although Maryland, at the time of the analysis, was collecting these data for non-credit program completers, and they've since launched a collection for all non-credit course takers, which is really exciting. Here's a table that shows a little bit more about the types of funding. You can see that most of the states in this phase of our research have non-credit funding from a state funding formula based on enrollment. A couple had performance-based funding. Some were relying on special initiative funding, like specific scholarships. And one state had need-based funding for occupational training and short-term training programs. Switching gears a little bit, we have a chart that shows the proportion of non-credit offerings by type. You can see that in most states, as I mentioned earlier, that blue bar is occupational training, and that comprises a lot of the offerings in our 5 states. We also, from this work, developed an updated non-credit data taxonomy. So this taxonomy, we're hoping it can be of use to a lot of stakeholders in the non-credit space as they work to standardize definitions across different groups. We added quite a few new categories to the taxonomy this time around based on our findings from this additional crop of states. So most of these were in the purpose and design category. We included categories for delivery, accessibility. So that's things like, is the location of a classroom physically accessible? Provider information, student services. And we also added a new category to the finance and policy arm, which is specific for WIOA information. So these elements are what states are collecting on their non-credit offerings and the students that are enrolled in those offerings. And as we explore and learn from more states, we hope to continue to expand and refine this taxonomy. All right,
Looks like
and
there's a
that's
question actually from Kelvin in the chat.
in the
Kelvin,
chat. Are the states tracking micro-credential learners and earners who select to pursue their micro-credential on platforms like Coursera while they are students or non-matriculated learners? Generally, no, but I'm sure that's an area that lots of states are interested in expanding, especially as micro-credentials rise in popularity. Any other questions? This is a very big project, so I know that's a lot to get through in 5 minutes.
hey, you did a great job, actually. Always really interesting work coming out of the non-credit data project. So thanks so much for sharing.
I'll drop a link in the chat in case anyone wants to read our cross-state report, and the taxonomy report should be coming out in the next couple months.
Sounds good. Kelvin, since you're in the chat, do you want anything that I know that we're also reaching out to you about doing a webinar potentially in the near future, but do you have any updates from Texas for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just briefly share. I don't have any slides, but maybe that's a good thing given the short time that we have left. What I can share is that really for the past couple of years within the University of Texas system, in part through a grant through the Strada Education Foundation, we've been allowing students and more recently also alumni to complete micro-credentials that are currently available on the Coursera platform. These are kind of like career certificates, and they're bundled together under the heading Career Academy. They come from providers like Google, IBM, Meta, CVS, and others. And what we're trying to do is really create kind of a digital, where we're kind of gradually putting together across almost kind of like a puzzle, right? So we have enrollment data and also micro-credential completion data on the Coursera platform, but that platform never touches our student information system. So we're trying to kind of track these learners over time, pull in demographic data also from our data warehouse by working with institutional research officers at 9 of our academic universities. And then we're really trying to do all of this to better understand who these learners are, right? So that's more cross-sectional data that we're trying to capture as students enroll and potentially complete the micro-credentials they sign up for. But then longitudinally, our hope is to also add to the puzzle job outcome data. So in the state of Texas, through a relationship with the Texas Workforce Commission, we do have access to unemployment insurance data at the individual level. So our hope is that we'll be able to kind of put this puzzle together and understand to what extent, what types of job titles and jobs people are getting, whether they graduate or not. But our hope is that, as students graduate, we'll be able to kind of see, are their job outcomes slightly better because they are completing these career certificates, which within the state of Texas, these non-degree credentials are being added into this broader category, potentially of credentials of value. But I think that's also still a kind of an open question. We have to kind of collect that data over time to really know. And of course, as many of you, if not all of you, are probably much better researchers than I am, because graduate stats for me was a long time ago in the late 90s, just to date myself. But there's lots of confounding variables here, right? Including a person's personality. I just say that because I'm a clinical psych person, given my grad training. But as we know, you can have the best training, but you can also be a jerk in an interview. So, but our hope is that over time we'll have a better sense of this work, and this also looking, for other examples of states or schools that are attempting to do this work too. Because right now it's just very unclear who's really looking at this data. I think in part because I don't know if a lot of states are really requiring schools to share it. If they have the equivalent of a coordinating board or an agency that oversees higher ed. So I'll stop there, but I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, and thanks to everyone who shared already. Thanks.
Thank you, Kelvin. And so just running through the chat here, I saw Sue Smith, you started to introduce yourself. I think we'd all be interested in learning a little bit more about the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. Anything you guys are up to?
Sure. Thank you all. And the Smart Automation Certification Alliance is an organization. It's a nonprofit organization, and it pretty much works with industry and some colleges and universities to develop credentials for industry. And these are micro credentials, but they also stack into occupational credentials. And so we've been doing this for several years now, and working with our industry partners in the technical working groups to develop these out. They are developed on standards, and those standards have knowledge and performance-based indicators. And we assess students both at the silver level and gold level. The silver level's online, and the gold level's face-to-face. They are occupational credentials, as you know, your data indicated. Those are the most popular. But we're doing also emerging technologies and electrical vehicles and semiconductors and metaverse. So we're doing a lot of those, working with a lot of those organizations as well. And what we've found, is that companies, like when we're working with them, they like their micro credentials to be 40 contact hour or 40 hours or less. And so we've been working with that, and creating those micro credentials also allows colleges in that 3 credit hour time frame to embed those certifications and credentials into their courses. So I just retired about 6 or 7 months ago from Ivy Tech Community College, where we did that with all of our manufacturing programs. So if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'd be happy to give you more information.
Thank you so much, Sue. All interesting to learn about. Obviously, that's an area that's got to be quite exciting, given all the growth in advanced manufacturing. And like you said, we actually at GW have been thinking about semiconductor manufacturing and how we can apply some of the work that we've been doing around skill matching and linkages to that field. Always really exciting.
Yeah, I'd love to have you as a partner if you'd like to see what we're doing.
Absolutely. And also welcome. Also, by the way, since you haven't spoken in these meetings before, warm welcome to you. And I see a couple other names that are not regulars. If anybody else, I think I'm not going to call on anyone, but I'll let anybody who wishes to give a brief introduction or share a little bit. I see Holly in the chat, and I think maybe. But before we go to Holly, if there's anybody else who wants to, any newcomers or people we hear from less regularly, please feel free to speak up.
Hello.
Hey, Ting Ting. Long time no see.
Yeah. My teaching schedule didn't allow me to participate in the past year, so I miss this community. Hi, folks. My name is Ting Ting Zhang. I'm a faculty member at the School of Labor and Employment Relations from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So hi from Midwest. And I was connected to this community in the past, and I learned tremendously from this group of folks. And I attended several seminars, but I just want to report back, because a few years back I received a small research grant from the NCRN network, and that helped me to start multiple projects that looking into the economic impact of apprenticeship in the Canadian labor market. So projects are going well, like despite a couple of hiccups. So they're in different stage. One of them, we're looking into the credential recognition pathways and different pathways and the kind of differential impact on long-term earnings and labor force participation between Native Canadians and skilled immigrants, specifically targeting the apprentices kind of like structures. We also started working with a group of amazing collaborators. We started looking using natural language processing to identify micro-credentials and non-degree credentials in the job ad currently being posted across the country in the US. And what we try to find out would be like, what are the micro-credentials or non-degree credentials are actually being required or demanded by the employers. I think like that's something that we can learn a lot about the non-degree credential kind of legwork. And last project, I just gonna be really quick. We're looking at mapping the education and training facilities and the high demand communities within the state of Illinois for agriculture workforce. And that's something that I talked about, in the previous NCRN conferences. I know we are currently making progress, try to link the economic opportunity for upskill and reskill those previously being displaced energy workers, especially in Southern Illinois, when there's a heavy kind of mine industry being disconnected a few years back, and we try to kind of like reskill them like with the modern technology and somehow like funnel them into the agriculture sector. So that's what we are working on from the practical side. Yeah, a lot of things that I learned from this group, and then apply that in my own research profile. So thank you.
Thank you, Ting Ting. We hope to see you again on May 28th if you do make it down to DC. Holly, I see that you have maybe a couple of things to share about the library.
Yeah, I just put in I didn't know if there'd be time, so I put some things in the chat. Couple of things. Some of you know that we are making our glossary free for embedding at other websites, if that would help supplement for your users information about key terms that are being used in the ecosystem, learn and work ecosystem. And it's available alphabetically. It's also available broken out by key components of the ecosystem. And we have a list of abbreviations. We're also really rolling out some sort of research that we would really invite folks to partner with us on AI's uses in making information information that we can trust available to folks, particularly researchers, students, policy folks, and others. So we're going to be putting out some information, looking for folks. And last is I see, and I'm so happy to see there's some faculty that are in the today's session. We're looking for faculty who would be willing to test the use of the library for assignments with their students. And we had a really good test run this past year with a faculty member at Florida State University. So if anyone's interested in letting your students test digital online libraries like ours to learn more about the ecosystem, would love to hear from you.
Sounds good, Holly. I do see that somebody who's calling in with a 916 area code has unmuted themselves. So if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. This is Sally Montemayor-Lenz, and I'm the Director of Post-Secondary Projects with WestEd. I know we're kind of out of time, but briefly, WestEd is supporting the California Community College Chancellor's Office in what sounds a lot like some of the projects that have been described. Non-credit has been in California for a very long time. There have been a lot of issues regarding pay and some of the things that have been described. We're highly unionized, et cetera. But we're a vast system. We're 116 community colleges. Some colleges are doing non-credit in degrees where it's primary at some of the campuses. So we are embarking on a toolkit. We are doing a survey in similar fashion to be able to identify the pathways, the gaps. Articulation within non-credit has a different definition than articulation in the credit sector. We're aligning both our non-credit to career pathways, non-credit to credit courses to labor market, ensuring that these students have an opportunity for employment. And then we're also doing topics of interest like mirrored courses, credit by exam, credit for prior learning. We're also working on a glossary of terms and a taxonomy, so I think it would be really great to bring this research together that's already been discussed. Our toolkit actually also has a non-credit dashboard. Again, some community colleges want to embark on this, the micro-credentials, the apprenticeship, but don't know how to do it. So we're building on the literature. We're doing also a dashboard that's interactive. A college faculty member, administrator can go in and look at the types of programs that other colleges are offering and be able to look at curriculum, be able to look at some of the outcomes, be able to look at regional LMI to see whether or not that makes sense for their college. And again, lastly, it would we're also supporting the Chancellor's Office on its AI work. So embedding AI. WestEd also does the Beta Vista for it's the kind of the management information system, student gathering information in California. WestEd has that as well. So we're matching, occupational preparation. We're getting the data from students, doing the Data Vista. We're also embedding AI, and we're looking at programs such as United Domestic Workers, and also looking for assessing credit for prior learning within non-credit curriculum, and then moving to credit. And again, aligned all of that with LMI. So sorry to speak so quickly, but I know we're out of time. So thank you.
No, thank you. And is there a website where we can find that dashboard?
The dashboard has not been launched yet. We are sharing it right now with the Association of Community and Continuing Education, but it will be available.
Okay, sounds great. So thank you so much for calling in, and we are out of time. So I will just end with a brief mention that we do have another NCRN webinar planned for next month, February 26th at 1 p.m. If you want to mark your calendars, although an email will be coming out very soon about this. We will be joined by Stephanie Norris of the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, who will be speaking on some of the work survey research they've been doing with community colleges. So we're really looking forward to that. Thanks so much to all of you who stuck around to the end, and we really appreciate your continuing involvement with the NCRN. Unless Michelle or anyone from Rutgers had anything else to say, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.